Greetings and welcome to our daily Devo for Tuesday, the 5th of December today. And our devotion this morning is entitled Healing of Bartimaeus. Healing of Bartimaeus. This is one we haven't had for a while as far as three different passages that this is covered in. And they're all listed for you. Matthew 20, Mark 10, Luke 18. They chose Mark 10:47 to quote, "When he heard that it was Jesus of Nazareth, he began to shout, 'Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me.'" This story gives us something even more precious than it gave Bartimaeus. While the blind man receives sight, we receive insight into Jesus' identity. The first of two ways the story clarifies Jesus' identity is through the title, Son of David. All three gospel accounts of this healing mention this title, and all three signal its importance by repeating the title twice in the storytelling. To be sure, Jesus was a biological descendant of David, but it goes beyond that. King David was promised that the Messiah would descend from his bloodline in 2 Samuel 7:12-16. And so the label Son of David became a title for the Messiah in Matthew 1:1. Before Jesus takes another step toward Jerusalem, these gospel writers emphasize that this is not just another pious pilgrim on the way to the holy city for Passover. This is not just another biological descendant of David headed for the nation's capital. They tag Jesus as the Messiah. The second detail, common to all three Gospels, is the geography. This is a Jericho story, and that says something about Jesus' route. Jericho in the first century was situated a full day of walking northeast of Jerusalem in the Jordan River Valley near the place where Jesus was baptized. The road that led from Jericho to Jerusalem involved a grueling climb through the difficult and dangerous Judean wilderness. This geography is important because the Old Testament prophets announced that the Messiah would culminate his mission on earth by entering Jerusalem like the rising sun from the east through the Judean wilderness. And they reference Isaiah 40, verses 3-5, as well as Isaiah 60, verses 1-3, Isaiah 63:1, and Malachi 4:2. So while the route was not a matter of consequence in Jesus' other trips to Jerusalem, this one was. Up to this point, we had known Jesus was headed for Jerusalem, but there was some ambiguity about the route he was traveling to get there. The fog dissipates with the mention of Jericho. Jesus had left Galilee and traveled down the Jordan River Valley to Jericho. Now we know he is poised to approach Jerusalem from the east by transiting the Judean wilderness in the very way the prophets foretold the Messiah would as he completed his mission on earth. This Jesus's fulfillment of prophecy as he lived and even where he went and in what direction he traveled, it's an amazing study. I heard years ago, I haven't looked for all of these, but in his first coming, not just his birth and born of a virgin and those prophecies, but details like this. Over 300 prophecies in details were fulfilled by Jesus as he walked this earth. Amazing, is it not? Amazing. Even in the small details. The description in Psalm 22 of what it looks like and what it feels like to die on a cross, when dying on a cross is not something that was done. Rome wasn't really around yet in those days. All the different things that Jesus did were prophesied well in advance. Well in advance. Isaiah was several hundred years before Jesus came. And so knowing these things about our God, knowing that he's in the details, knowing that no matter what events are going on with Rome and controlling Israel and the crooked religious leaders and the Roman puppets who governed the area, excuse me, God's got it. That should hopefully lead us to a place where we see, if God can do that in those kinds of situations, I can trust him. I can trust him to have the details of my life. We say that a lot, especially at our prayer meeting when we're talking and praying, doing prayer requests, telling maybe a brief testimony of something that happened to us for the week. God's in the details, and his timing is always good timing. We can trust him. We can put our hope and our faith in him. And stories like this, when we get the background, that's why it's important to study the Word of God and not just read it and move on to the next verse or the next chapter. Not just, I'm going to read the Bible in this year and just read it through and not really pause and meditate on it. Not say, that's interesting. I'm going to look that up. I wonder why he traveled from that direction to Israel or to Jerusalem. It's a lifetime of discovering and finding out who he is, how he accomplished what he did, why he accomplished what he did, and God's hand in all of it. His hand is in our lives when we yield ourselves to him and we hear his voice and we follow him. Blessings to you today. I pray that you will have